All right, well, everyone, welcome to our final meeting of the year for Hurlbut and WIS. I can't believe we're already here. It's kind of unbelievable. I'm sure everyone is like kind of in shell shock that we're almost at Memorial Day weekend. Please remember to mute yourselves if you're not speaking on the call. I've made it possible for everyone to share. So Ms. Henckel and Ms. Noble, if you wanted to share, you're able to. We are very excited to have Ms. Henckel here. She is our assistant superintendent, and Ms. Noble. Ms. Noble, you're at the reading, right, and curriculum. Is that correct? If I'm remembering that correctly for Hurlbut or for both schools?
Kindergarten through second grade, reading, writing, and social studies curriculum instructional leader. But I am also a reading specialist and literacy consultant.
Wonderful. So we have both of them on the call today. So we're very, very lucky. So any families who aren't able to be here will be able to watch this once we put it on YouTube. So we're going to let our special guests speak first, and then we'll jump into the rest of our meeting. So Ms. Noble or Ms. Henckel, who would like to take the lead on this? All right, Ms. Henkel's going to jump in.
Good morning, everyone. Can you see my screen?
No, not yet.
You are sharing, it says.
You know what? I have to stop sharing. And now you can share.
Sharing is caring.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting us today. I'm actually joined by a larger cadre of experts in the field around literacy. Today, I'll introduce them in a moment. We are really excited to be here to provide you with an update and an overview relative to our K-5 literacy implementation in the district. This is what we hope to be are you seeing my screen or no? Yes, you see the presentation on the screen? Great. What we hope to be a series of conversations moving forward as we initially discuss our adoption for our new core resource and then moving into next school year. So some of the questions that we hope to answer today as a team are relative to the broad components of the right to read legislation that the state of Connecticut officially adopted last school year, aligned to the science of reading. We want to talk a little bit about Weston's literacy goals aligned to the best practices around high quality teaching and learning and literacy instruction. We want to provide a brief overview of the new core reading program that we will be adopting over the summer when we revise curriculum and then move into implementation starting next school year. I want to give an opportunity to give a shout out to our district literacy committee. We have some of our representatives here today to engage in the conversation and talk about all the great work that they've done this school year to research and dive into this new legislation, and also make some really hard decisions around what our new core resource will be for literacy. And then always as parents, we want to continue to support our children in the area of becoming continue to be strong readers, and what are some of those resources that you'll have in the summer and then moving into next school year. So as I mentioned, when I joined the team in September, we're going to go through some of the new legislation around literacy in the state and how that specifically affects Weston. And so I was very fortunate to gather the troops and design a district literacy committee. We have a wealth of partnerships between teachers and administrators and curriculum and instruction leaders, administration, as I mentioned, and also both general ed and special education teachers, our reading interventionists, our reading specialists. And we were very fortunate that part of our work this school year was to also engage in a partnership with our local cooperative educational services, one of our local RESCs, to lean on some of their literacy experts as well as we engaged in this work. And so we were really fortunate to involve some unbiased parties in this conversation to really elevate our work in Weston and make some really sound decisions, because we felt like we wanted to make sure that we had different perspectives in the room as we were engaging in discussion. So real quick, I just want to say thank you to the other members of the team that are here today. We all kind of took a part of our presentation today. We have Patty Morrow, she is our Assistant Director for Special Education. She's on the call. Patty, are you here?
I am.
Great. Hi, Patty. We have all of our curriculum and instruction leaders K-12 on the call with us as well today. We really wanted to celebrate the work on a K-12 continuum. Actually, it's going to become a pre-K through 12 continuum because some of the legislation will eventually adopt officially pre-K as well. And so we also really do work to ensure that our pre-K prerequisite skills and knowledge lend itself beautifully into that K transition. And so our 3 curriculum and instruction leaders around literacy and social studies are here today. We have Andrea Noble. You're all very familiar with Andrea. You're all very familiar with Alex Bluestein from WIS. And then we also have Dr. Jessica DeBono from our secondary schools too, joining us and has been engaged in this process the whole time since the beginning of the year in September. And we really take this work very seriously, and we really want to be seen as a team and a partnership on a K-12, pre-K through 12 continuum. So thank you all for joining me today and having this discussion. As I mentioned, our literacy adoption timeline has been pretty robust and aggressive. I don't like to say that word a lot of times, but the literacy legislation was adopted last school year, and we really had to increase some of the urgency around the research and around the time frame that we really needed to start having discussions around what the legislation meant for us in Weston, and also really, as I mentioned before, lean on our experts in the field here in Weston to really make some decisions moving forward and get really involved in this process. And so October, we started building that team, and every month we've had ongoing meetings internally, meetings with, we've sent teams out to different schools. We've vetted all the different resources that are available to the state around different programs. We've made presentations to the board at the subcommittee meeting, as well as the Board of Education full board meeting. We've done, Patty has done extensive work in the special education area and done parent meetings there too. We've met with faculty. We've done presentations to faculty as well. We've met with all of our administrators. And so we've really been strategic in ensuring that all along the way and every month, as you can see, we've been ensuring there's ongoing communication. We have also made sure that we've used our time to really dive into these resources, vet them thoroughly. We've had outside presenters come in and present to the entire district literacy committee. Every member of the district literacy committee has evaluated all of these tools. We've met with outside school districts that are also using any of these core programs. And I would say lightly, we've interviewed them around their experiences and some of their successes and some of their challenges, so that we can integrate that into our decision-making process and also our planning process. So just wanted to give you some background around this adoption timeline, because it has been quite aggressive, and I really value all the work that we've put into it. So we wanted to make sure that we were on the same page with some of the legislation relative to the science of reading. There's been a plethora of research over the last few decades around the legislation, around the right to read, and it expands a variety of different research and panel discussions across the state. This is not a new conversation, right? What is new is that now the state is requiring districts to really integrate the science of reading and the research attached to it. And we now have a real strong position statement and a state council where we have outlined the expectation. The state has outlined the expectations for districts around which core resources we're allowed to use, which assessment resources we're allowed to use, which are directly aligned to the science of reading. Patty is also going to talk a little bit further around what some of that legislation includes. We've got some highlights here and links to the actual policies and legal aspects of the right to read legislation. And ultimately, the idea is to systematize a more statewide response to the right to read legislation and ensure that pre-K through 3 is more systematic, is more cohesive across the state. You'll see in our presentation, we've had many of these pieces already in place. We are refining some of our resources and our practices as we move into next school year, but we feel confident that we've been in a good place for the last few years. And we know that we've got some work to do around curriculum development, as we always do when we adopt a new resource. But as far as instructional practices, we have really strong teachers that have already been integrating the science of reading practices in the classroom, and we hope to elevate those practices moving forward. So in summary, so now with this new legislation, which basically states that every school district in the state of Connecticut, and Connecticut is has been a little bit behind in as far as the adoption of the law. Other states have already adopted this law, but we just adopted it in 2021. So what the law states is that every district is now required to have a reading curriculum that has been adopted based on the state list. So there are 6 programs that the state has vetted through their own subcommittees, which has different representation from the state and local level. And they have vetted all the resources that are available to districts, and they have a clear outline of criteria which vets each one of those programs and defines for districts which one is more directly aligned to the science of reading and therefore approved. So that was our work on the District Literacy Committee. What are those 6 programs? How are they aligned to the science of reading? How are they aligned to our values and current practices in Weston? And which one would fit our expectations most closely? Professional development is included in that. They do talk about external literacy coaches in legislation, which we feel we're very fortunate in Weston because we have a commitment to literacy coaching and literacy support already through our curriculum and instruction leaders. So we have some of these pieces, as I mentioned before, already in place. And then there are assessments that are also clearly outlined as far as which districts can adopt moving into next school year. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then obviously all the research that is aligned to the Center for Literacy around research and reading success, and making sure that the work that we use is all grounded and aligned to what the center has already been published and highlighted. So Patty, Patty Moore, I'm going to turn it over to you and talk a little bit more about anything you wanted to add around the legislation and the summary of the bill and what that means for Weston.
Thank you so much, Tina. So it is an exciting time in the world of literacy. The bill that is being proposed right now, there's really a few changes that they're looking to make to it. The word comprehensive was added. Pre-K was eliminated for now. You can have what they call staggered implementation. So if you wanted to roll out parts of an implementation program, the state is allowing us to do that. So we are currently waiting to hear if that bill passes. Next slide. So what is the science of reading? I'm sure that, it is a hot topic in the news. If anyone has read any of the articles or seen some of the news reports or documentaries or podcasts that really talk about science of reading, the science of reading is a body of scientifically based research about reading and issues related to reading and writing. So oftentimes you'll hear us talking about decoding and encoding as part and parcel of that reading and writing. Decoding meaning the ability to decode sounds in order to make words. Encoding is your ability to write those. This research was conducted over the last 50 years all over the world, and it's really culminated with a body of research designed to to inform us how proficient reading and writing develop, why some students are having difficulty, and how we can really effectively assess those children, identify the areas that they're having difficulty with, plan a program that is really aligned to that specific reading program or reading profile, and really be able to successfully reach those students who are having demonstrated difficulty. Next slide. So the science of reading, one of the things that you will hear talked about is the reading rope. Scarborough is a well-known researcher in the area of reading. And what he has talked about is that there are all of these different strands of a rope that are, and you'll hear me talk about those in terms of pillars, that really all kind of come together to make a good reader. So for instance, we have one strand being phonological awareness, which is that ability to be able to manipulate sounds. Those are your rhyming, those are your holding on to parts and being able to change, like you hear the word cat, take away the k, put in a b. What word do you have? Bat. And for those of you who are in the reading world, I did put a little vowelization on my bus, so I apologize. Under that is decoding, which is your ability to be able to know those sounds and what those sounds make, as well as sight recognition. So this is a really important part of reading. You know, when you're reading your books at home, you're not just decoding sound by sound. You develop this really great word recognition or sight recognition so that you're really rapidly decoding or rapidly recalling those words as you read. The other half of this is the language comprehension piece. This is being able to bring your background knowledge. You've played tennis, so when you're reading a book about tennis, you can kind of bring that background knowledge to fill in maybe some of the holes that you have with reading. Vocabulary being another really important piece of that language comprehension piece, as well as language structure, so that syntax or your grammatical form. Also looking at those higher level language integration tasks. So verbal reasoning and literacy knowledge so that you understand different genres and things of that nature. So that word recognition piece, those strands that fall under that word recognition piece, along with that language comprehension strands that all kind of braid together, then braid together to create this skilled reader. Next slide. So as I discussed before, we also talk about with the science of reading is the 5 pillars of literacy, and those include phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. And the charge really for all districts is to be able to look at the body of research that we have for each of these pillars and be able to design instruction and curriculum that effectively teaches these pillars. Next slide. So what we're looking at when we're looking at effective literacy instruction, we want to make sure that it's explicit. We want to make sure that we are directly teaching children these skills. This is not something that we think is just innate inside of them and that they're going to be able to get through sort of this osmosis. One of the things that we are learning in the body of research is that reading is not an innate system like language is. We want to make sure that it's systematic and cumulative. So each of those steps sort of build off of each other, that it's diagnostic in nature, that we are collecting data as time goes on. We're analyzing that data to see what are our students doing well with, what are they struggling with, what are the areas that we need to adjust our instruction so that we can target students and continue to progress them further. And the other piece of this is that we're looking at it to be multimodality. So we're looking at it being multisensory and multilinguistic. So we're really integrating all of those pieces of listening, speaking, reading, writing, and we're using all of our senses. So we're listening to it, we're visually working on it, but we're also tactily working on it too. You might see some of your students are tracing words or writing letters in sand or shaving cream or using bumpy mats to really build that tactile kinesthetic piece to them as well. Next slide. So I am going to turn it over at this point. Oh, no, I'm sorry. What has come from the legislation? So what happened is that we had a team at the state level that looked at 25 curricular programs across 25 literacy indicators indicated for the science of reading. We have included those literacy indicators when you have time, if you feel the need to look at those indicators. And they came up with 6 curriculum that they felt met the literacy indicators. So I am going to turn it over at this point to talk about what the district literacy committee chose and tell you a little bit more about the American Reading Company, the ARC Core.
All right, thank you very much, Patty. So my name is Jess DeBuno. I serve as the curriculum instructional leader for grades 6-12. And it was really an honor for me to be a part of this process because not only do I have little ones, but also I have this vested interest in our own vertical alignment that we have in the district. And for me, it was really important to talk about these foundational years and to be thinking of where we want our students to go, right? Where do we want? I know for you guys, you probably don't want to be talking about your students in high school or middle school just yet, but we know time is a thief and they will be there soon enough. So for us, it was really important that we came together as a team to look at these different curriculums, and we have chosen ARC Core. So I'm really proud to say that we've chosen ARC Core. I have to also say that I think that there's many amazing elements of this program that we'd like to highlight here today. There's a brief video. If you wanted to ever click that video or and watch it on your own, it's about 12 minutes. So I think what it does is it's a really nice video of, it's going to talk about all the things that we'll talk about here, but it'll also kind of give you some of the visuals, right? And see it in the classroom that we'll talk about. So for us, the main thing for me, I think that ARC showed us more than any other was this not only highly rated knowledge building curriculum that's been used, and we, like Dr. Henckel said, we talked to other districts that have been implementing this. Oh, I think people might want the link in the chat to the video if we can do that. Sorry. I just want to make sure that people can watch that if they wish afterwards. It's a really good video, so I definitely urge you to watch that and let us know any questions. But for me, ARCs, I was really impressed by not only the things that other people had to say about it, but what they were talking about it looking like in their classroom, and the fact that it was really encouraging all students to be successful in however we can get them to be successful, right? It was this explicit, systematic whole group approach that also then had very, very differentiated small group instruction. For them, their mission is to just help to provide support to ensure that all students succeed. And for me, that was really what set them apart from other programs out there. Maybe the next slide we can go through. And something that they call themselves, this is a quote from them, and I'll just maybe highlight a few different things that they stated. But for me, something that really stands out is this idea that they call it a thinking curriculum. That the students are constantly thinking, that every single day they are reading, they are writing, they are listening, they are speaking, and they are thinking, because that's the goal. We want our students to be these thinkers. So for me, just in this quote, what really stands out is not only that all students have this opportunity to achieve, but that it gets very individualized, very differentiated for our students, that the breadth and the depth of the texts that are offered that we'll talk about really just made the most sense for our students here in Weston to help them all achieve. So what really is The ARC core, they've got these 4 really impressive components that they are not just a knowledge building curriculum, but that they are also this systematic foundational skills program that is grounded in the science of reading, like Patty just explained to us, so that it's not just about even, everyone's talking so much about phonics, but it's not just about phonics, right? It's also about all those other elements, print concepts, phonological awareness, word recognition, fluency. So they have all of that happening within this curriculum. Something that I just absolutely loved were these thematic inquiry-based units of study that not only just align vertically with our English curriculum, but also our social studies curriculum, in really getting our students to be these questioners, these thinkers. Again, having them reading and writing, and the pieces that they produce from them were very impressive for me. It was from the start, it was clear that it was a very rigorous grade level, appropriate and encouraging students to read a ton. I, of course, love that. It's really encouraging students to just be reading a lot at home, a lot in the classroom, and just encouraging them to be thinking about what they're reading. And then again, we'll talk about the very impressive ample opportunities for differentiation that a lot of the teachers, because I did a lot of research about what teachers say, right, about the program, and teachers were talking just how much information the program allowed them to know about their students. And that was something that really stood out to me, that our teachers are so dedicated to, knowing about each student and their individual skills. And this program really allowed for the teachers to be able to look at that information and then make the appropriate decisions on curriculum with that. Next slide, sorry. And then again, really, obviously, right, we want to make sure that our students have this solid foundational reading skills. We want to make sure that we can help them develop as fluent readers as they're moving through more rigorous text, as they're moving grade levels. We want to make sure that our students have this strong foundation, and this program allows for that. We want to make sure that our students know about the world. We want to have them know about different topics. We want them to engage with picking topics that they want to learn more about. We want them to kind of be able to ask the questions and find the answers. We want them to expand their vocabulary, right? We want them not only to be able to use like reading vocabulary and be able to talk about their own learning, but also become expansive vocabularies, and to be able to use them, to see them in action, to then use them in action. Really for us also, especially as we get into the higher grades, right, being able to use evidence appropriately, to be able to communicate appropriately, that's a solid foundational skill that this program really encourages. And then also just a deep understanding of what it is that they are working with, looking at things with a critical lens, asking questions, and growing their knowledge, and really producing pieces that they are very proud of. And that for me, I think, was something that helped this program to stand out.
Okay, so I'm going to take over the next several slides. So ARC core does have thematic inquiry-based units of study. That first unit of study in each of the grade levels is to help the students build academic routines and procedures that will allow them to be successful in reading and writing. It is very content rich. The literacy block is ensuring that students are engaged in the learning process, and it's really thought-provoking. In Unit 2, they move into an informational unit of study. This unit of study is typically based on science topics, where the students are going to become experts in reading and writing informational text. So for us, it was very important that students not only have a really robust reading curriculum, we really needed to make sure that what we chose also ensured that our writing curriculum was as robust as the reading curriculum. In Unit 3, students then will transition into a literature genre where students will study literary elements in a genre while also constructing narrative pieces of writing. In Unit 4, they'll be embracing and learning all about social studies content, where in writing, then they will be producing either persuasive or argumentative pieces of writing. What's really nice about ARC is that there is an intentional cumulative knowledge building to their curriculum that spans across the grade levels. The content is engaging with a focus on deeply building knowledge. There is a cohesive vertical alignment that is inclusive of content area standards, as well as a balance between fiction and nonfiction text. The curriculum also ensures that students are writing across the genres that I had mentioned in the prior slide. I just wanted to quickly reference an article that Natalie Wexler had published in Forbes a few years ago, but it really does emphasize that there is a need for us as teachers to build our students' general knowledge and vocabulary as a means to help improve and bolster reading comprehension. And ARC does a really nice job of being able to do this for us, our students. Their small group instruction in ARC really is very important. They provide a systematic based system that builds on the foundational skills of phonological awareness, phonics, word study, and fluency. It is explicit and direct. It ensures that our instructional time is carefully allocated to maximize direct instruction and time on task. There are consistent instructional routines that are utilized to guide students to correct responses and mastery. There also is a nice combination of decodable and authentic text that really allows our students to learn the skills, practice them in decodable text, and then equally apply them into authentic text. Our teachers will be scaffolding their instruction to gradually release responsibility and support so that the students become increasingly proficient in applying the skills that they're learning. Next slide.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Bluestein, and I am the curriculum instructional leader for language arts and social studies at WIS. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some more about why we as a team felt that ARC was a good fit for Weston. And one is this image on this slide that we felt like it was important to show you because it speaks to the immense volume and variety of text that are provided with ARC designed to meet the needs of diverse learners. There's an importance placed on reading a lot across the day to support growth and progress of reading, which, as many of you know from previous presentations that we've done, that the research bears it out over and over again. The more we read, the better we get at reading. So the fact that this was a priority across the program and across every grades was very important to us. We were charged as a committee with determining first what we value in literacy instruction and looking for the program that fits those values, including literacy best practices and meeting the needs of every learner in our classrooms. Next slide, please. So what you may also find interesting is that the ARC program has built-in, baked-in communication with families that includes book bags that will come home with your student, in addition to home strategy cards. One question that we get a lot is, how can we help our child at home? Because as you know, you are their parent, not their teacher. And so these strategy cards help them with determined strategies that align with what they are working on in the classroom with their teacher, and provide you language and structure that is parent-friendly to support all of the work that they're doing in school, because the research also tells us that students need to continue that reading work at home. Next slide. Okay, so this is a big, important slide because, as I said before, we had a lot of conversations about what we value about the teaching of reading and writing in all parts of literacy, all of those pillars that you saw earlier. And so on the left side of this chart, what will remain the same? These are not just the programs that we're using like Hegarty and Foundations, but also the best practices in literacy instruction that are what we call curriculum agnostic. They're what we do every day, that we do no matter what we teach all the time. And we felt that ARC really was the strongest program for us to see that those practices are still embedded. They're still baked in. Our teachers bring with them everything that they know about being amazing teachers of literacy. And then what is enhanced is a few things. One is that there is a tight alignment between reading and writing. As Andrea said, continuing with our strong writing curriculum was a priority. And the tighter the alignment between what students are reading and what they're writing about, the research bears out, has tremendous impact on growth and progress. What you also noticed in the slide before is that while students are learning in genre, they're theme-based, they're aligned with science and social studies, there are also fewer units across the year that allow us to go more in depth. And those pillars that we saw earlier that are the foundation of reading and writing are embedded in every lesson every day. One last thing that I want to highlight is that ARC has prioritized, in addition to all of this, ensuring that the program and all of the materials are easy to access for teachers. Everything's in one place. So teachers' planning can be streamlined so that their focus can be more on the content and the depth of what they're teaching rather than allocating all the resources that they need, because everything is right there for them. Next slide. So we're going to talk a little bit now about measuring progress, gauging progress, and assessment. Part of the legislation that we touched upon earlier is legislation from the state that sort of legislates the universal screening measures that we must use K-3. And the purpose is to provide a stronger research-based screening process for students with either dyslexia or reading-based learning differences. Because, as we know, the screening process in K-3 is instrumental in that early identification so that we can design programs for students right away that meet those needs and ensure that all students are successful. These assessments are at a minimum. We add on also curriculum-based assessments that also, I keep saying this, measure what we value. We measure what we value, we teach what we value. And so Andrea is going to speak a little bit more about these assessments and how they all fit together.
Okay, so we currently use the DIBELS 8 assessments, but we are going to be transitioning to the M-Class system. It's going to provide us a more streamlined way to enter, review, and analyze student data. So that's going to be a nice shift. NWEA will continue to be administered in targeted grade levels. The curriculum assessments are going to remain the same for Hegarty and Foundations. Fountas and Pinnell benchmark assessments are not going to be administered as a universal screening tool. We are going to be adding in curricular assessments that come with ARC. And I think that really, yeah, the performance-based assessments as well as writing prompts will also remain the same. So how will students be assessed? At-home connections. Yep, move on, Tina. So at-home connections, we've been talking about this, and Alex and I have spoken to the PTO for many years about summer and summertime reading. There are numerous summer reading programs that happen in Weston, Wilton, Westport. There will be the Governor's Summer Reading Challenge, as well as our summer reading websites. Those are under construction right now. But moving ahead to ARC, in addition to what we currently do, there are a few things that will be different. They are going to have their own take-home book bags. It's going to be a little different than our Book Buddy bags, but it's a similar process. As Alex mentioned, the IRLA is going to have the home practice cards. There will be parent newsletters that will be able to come home. We will be making updates and revisions to our Weston Public Schools reading and writing websites. And our principal newsletters, of course, will continue to be something for us to have access to.
Thank you, team. That was great. Well done. We hope that provides everyone with an overview of some of the legislation, the the process in which Weston went through to make this decision, and then also provide some additional information around the American Reading Company's core program and how some things may remain the same and how we've really tried to elevate some of the things that we're going to be able to implement next school year. Andrea raising her hand.
Yeah, there was a question
Okay,
that someone
great.
had asked, which was, will we be keeping Foundations and Integrity at Hurlbut? And yes, we will be continuing both of those programs as well as those curricular assessments. And then the American Reading Company additionally has instruction and assessments that are linked to their curriculum.
Yeah, and just to add a couple more things before we answer questions for anyone that has some additional questions, you can put them in the chat or you can unmute yourself at that point. Just a couple things. We hope some of the pieces we hope you took away with why we chose the American Reading Company, and Jess and Alex and Andrea really did a great job talking about the alignment and the connections to science and social studies, where we're trying to ensure and keep instilling the love and joy for reading through contextual environments. Like, how is reading and writing embedded in the world around them, so we can bring some outside into the classroom as well through literacy, reading, and then obviously writing. And that's why we leaned a lot on the American Reading Company. You can see, and that picture is very aligned to the plethora and depth of resources around authentic texts. These are not texts that don't look like real pictures, and they're books that you can't buy in the library. You can. These are books that they will see at home if you were to go purchase them at Barnes and Noble, and they come into the classroom. And so one of the frustrating pieces for us when we work with American Reading Company is we're trying to evaluate some of the books that we have in the classroom versus some of the books that we're going to get when we purchase by grade level. And because these are authentic texts and they change all the time, there are really no like set book lists, right? Which is very unique to this company versus some of the other ones, right? So we really value the fact that they were constantly looking at new authors and new books that were bringing kind of a nuance into the classroom. Also, I just want to add and make sure that there's a highlight around our implementation process. I've already, I don't know if I would consider it approved, but I've already notified the state that in Weston, this is our implementation plan. We will be implementing in K2 next year. And then the following year, we will be implementing 3.5. So I've already communicated that plan to them. I'm not really waiting for any approval. That's what we're going to do. And we are working currently with our SIL department here, our administrators in the district, as well as the professional development team with the American Reading Company to begin our implementation process and the professional development beginning in August. So I'm gonna put the link to the overview video in the chat, but I will also make sure that this presentation is provided publicly so that you can click on some of the embedded links as well. So I'm going to let everyone open up to some of the questions in the chat, and I'll open it up to the district team as well to answer some of those questions. Because I see some questions, where should I go back to?
So I can answer the question about the leveled books.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, as you know, we have classroom libraries that are organized by specific levels of books. Those levels are determined by the level of complexity in those books. The way that ARC is a little bit different, ARC looks at a band of grade level levels in books. So they're more looking at a continuum across a grade level and how we can best match books to readers based on where they are across that continuum. It's not as level-based as what we have now, but we are still looking at different ways that books increase in complexity at the word, sentence, and content level. I hope that answers the question. And students will still be able to read books. If students are reading beyond grade level, they will be reading, students will always be reading books that are well matched to what they need as readers and where they need to grow, where they need to extend.
I'm just going to jump in here, Alex, and read some of the questions that are on here for the team to take. There's a question here. How will this be implemented to current first graders who have been using the current system?
Andrea, do you want to take that one?
Sure. I don't think it's really going to be much different. A lot of the framework around the way in which the American Reading Company structures their lesson is very similar to the way in which the kids are used to having a lesson that's done whole class. And then there are opportunities for teachers to pull small group. So I don't really feel like the structure of the learning is going to be very different. I think it's going to be a fabulous ability for us to really pique a lot of interest with kids early on and really get them very excited about some science and social studies topics in literacy. And I think that that's going to help us really get our kids very eager to want to read. They're going to have thematic types of books and access in the classroom. So that's really going to change with each of the units that happen over the course of the year. And I think that's a great way also to continue to bolster that interest in reading and wanting to continue to explore topics that are of interest to them.
There's another question that says, can you explain how you will be using F&P assessment?
I'm going to take that one, if that's okay.
Sure.
So part of our district literacy committee is evaluating the current assessments that we have in existence, as well as some of the legislation requirements around the change in assessments for universal screeners and the curriculum-based assessments that American Reading Company provides. We are in the process, as part of our next steps with our team, to really dive deep into what the assessment data is telling us. So I'm just giving a big picture for now. F&P is not, and never was intended to be, a universal screener, is not part of the approved universal screener list. DIBELS 8 is on that screening list, and that will be what our universal screener is. Moving into next school year, we do have some additional, we have some more time to really dive into our curriculum assessments. What are the assessments we're using on a regular basis throughout a unit? And what is the data telling us? So we are not eliminating anything as of yet. We are going to maintain all of the assessments that we currently use within the classroom so that we can ask questions of our teachers and allow time for our administrators and our school-based teacher teams to understand what those assessments are telling us, how they're helping us make decisions around the 5 pillars of the science of reading before we take anything out. It would not be in our best interest to really understand what the data is telling us before we start removing some of those curriculum-based assessments. So we are revising our screener, as we mentioned. DIBELS 8 is now on the approved list. We've been using it in the past, but now we have an enhancement to it so we can actually analyze the data more easily through the online platform. And that's what we're going to be using to measure district-wide grade level data moving forward.
So the next question is, beyond having a deep well of new exciting books, how does the curriculum further motivate unmotivated readers? How do you support a child that has learned to read easily but has no interest to read at home, regardless of how exciting a teacher thinks a book might be? We know the research about how important reading is at home, but when that is resisted and leads to battles, how is that supported by ARC?
I can take that. Nobody seemed to want to jump on that one. You know what? It's always a challenge. And years ago, parents would say to me, my kid will only read Captain Underpants. And I'm like, I guarantee you by 12th grade, they will no longer be reading Captain Underpants, right? You want the kids to be reading things that are of interest to them. If they are struggling and they read easily, I really think it's a matter of finding topics that are of interest to them. And I think ARC does a really nice job of providing thematic units where the kids will get to explore different topics. And we're hoping that we'll be able to pique greater interest. As a parent, sometimes it's more of a power struggle. And I think it's a matter of just honoring a child and what they want to read within parameters of, what is appropriate for them to be reading. But the more we can kind of get them engaged in the reading process, we all know the better their performance will become.
Yeah, and I just, to add on to Andrea's mention about, finding that interest. I think we can always do in every content area, find more ways to engage students in the opportunity to choose the books that they want to read, right? And so ARC is also grounded in that philosophy, and what we value here in Weston too, is to, like Andrea said, engaging and involving them in the process of picking texts that are meaningful and exciting to them, while finding success in those texts, right? And so that's our job. And I know there was a question about monitoring progress at home, but it is about having variety and also pushing students to that next level. And so the philosophy of ARC is to really not remove the options for kids. If a student wants to try a text that may be challenging, we embrace that and we support and provide scaffolds to them so they can move to that next level, or a higher, more complex level authentic text. And I believe in Weston, I've only been here for a short period of time, but everything I've heard and seen, that is something we value here in Weston, and we want to push kids into those higher level texts. And that is something that we want to continue with our new core program. If anybody wants to add anything.
Yeah, I'll just add in also, I think that all of this speaks to the amount and number and quantity and variety of books that students have to choose from. And I understand the question on a parental level. I had that child at home, and my child did not go to school in Weston. However, I did find myself trying desperately to find books that he was interested in reading. I know it can be a challenge. And I think what ARC provides is students who will be learning in very engaging topics, but also provided the flexibility to read other books of their own choosing, and having a huge variety of books to choose from. So, and the one thing that I will say that is a positive is that our teachers value getting to know your kids and what their interests are. Our teachers are very good at guiding kids into books that will really engage them. That's always a priority. And that is something that, again, is a best practice that will continue, that we don't move away from. That is something that continues, and that, no matter which program we go forward with.
Our next question is, how will parents be able to progress monitor if they currently use level books at home to see how kids are progressing?
I think we talked a little bit about some of the shift around leveling that maybe a little bit different than what we're used to, and really trying to challenge and push students. So I think next year, we're going to have a lot of additional opportunities for teachers to meet with parents around different varieties of texts that are developmentally appropriate and where students can find success. And I think the focus is more around individualized plans and how those book bags kind of change as the year goes on. And so it's allowing the teacher to really customize some of the books that they'll be coming home with in those book bags. I don't know if anybody wants to add some of that too.
I think also, as a district, we're looking at the progress monitoring measures that we're using right now, and sort of tightening what those are looking at and how they are looking at that. And I think that will be an ongoing education process that we'll be sharing with parents as time goes on as well. The next question is, what does this mean for special education, and will support services change in terms of earlier intervention with dyslexic and struggling readers? So I'll take that one if no one minds. Your IEPs are going to remain the same. The classroom, the curriculum that will be addressed in the gen ed environment will be changing. it will be looking a little bit different, although keeping many of the same components that it had before. Again, as I just said, we are going to be looking at progress monitoring a little bit differently and what we are progress monitoring. So I do think it is going to change how we are looking at students as they're kind of progressing through and what benchmarks they're making, or where they might be exhibiting some levels of difficulty that may lead to our changing intervention or diagnostic process. There's another question, I think, to further clarify, does this mean that all kids will get N-class and F&P plus foundations, unit assessments, et cetera?
Sorry, I was typing the answers in there because the team is running out of time, and I apologize because we have a hard stop at 10. So as I mentioned around assessments, we are in ongoing discussion still. Some of our work moving forward is to focus a little bit more specifically on the curriculum-based assessments and what that data is telling us aligned to the 5 pillars, and how those assessments are used in the classroom. What all students will engage in are the DIBELS 8 universal screening assessments 3 times a year. So we are still in internal discussions with our district literacy committee and our teachers around which assessments we can sunset, because maybe they're redundant, maybe they're giving us the same information, or are there assessments that we need to make sure that we maintain, because that is a component of within ARC that we need to ensure that we have the data around. So the book bags will be in collaboration with the teachers and students, and they will be aligned with the curriculum topic within the unit of study, from what I understand. And I would assume too, though, our teachers will always kind of throw something else in there if there is a student that wants to add another authentic text into that book bag as well. So more to come on some of those components. We're really excited. We're happy that you're excited. And we really appreciate the time that we got to spend with you today. This, as I said in the beginning, this is not going to be the last conversation. We hope to engage in some of the work next school year and give you some feedback on where we are relative to the implementation, and answer additional questions and get your feedback as well from your children, and see how they feel the new implementation and with the new resources going. So I thank you all, really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. I think this was a really wonderful topic to discuss, and it will go on YouTube so all the families can actually rewatch the entire meeting and presentation. And then Ms. Henckel, if you'll send us the video and the actual slideshow, then we can include everything for all of our parents. And also another parent suggested, and Stephanie wrote it in the chat, we're going to have it sent to every parent in the classroom, not just the PTO members, because there are families who aren't on the PTO. So we want to make sure everyone has access to it. So we'll make sure the room parents get all these links, and they can send them out to all of their parents in their classrooms as well.
Thank you. And just to add on, there will be a little blurb in the district newsletter that Lisa sends out. It will include the video from today as well as the presentation for the to the link. So it will definitely get out district-wide.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. I think that Miss Falber had to jump off. So thank you. Mrs. Cadis, are you on still, or did she jump off too? Okay, so okay, it's just us. Let's do it. Here we go. This is, let me go back to our slideshow. Can everyone see this one? The very important volunteers needed sign. If you haven't signed up for a shift and are able to, we really need people Saturday and Sunday, specifically in the afternoon shifts. So I will link everything on the chat. I'll link the actual sign up genius in the chat, and then we'll also send this out again to all of the families later today. But it's happening. It's this weekend and it looks beautiful. So we're excited. Next up, Stephanie.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Mrs. Cadis did have to jump off, but she wanted me to share with everyone that there are a lot of end of the year events happening and to watch out for emails. That's her update. So there we go. We will be quick because that presentation was so lengthy, but I think it was really thorough and important. And I know we all have a lot of questions, so we hope that there will be lots of opportunities to dig down even deeper into all this new information. So we recently had our big teacher and staff appreciation week. It was a packed week. Our chairs, which are listed on this slide, did a phenomenal job. Every single day, there was something special for the teachers and staff. They were welcomed with signs, there were balloons, there were flowers brought in by students, there were cards, there were Hurlbut colored pretzels and cookies made, and a catered luncheon at the end of the week. And so the teachers felt very appreciated and everything was super lovely. Here is an updated picture of our garden. The picture is not great because I took it from the carpool loop, but if you look closely, there are blooming purple flowers and pink flowers and everything is coming up. If you remembered last year's garden, which was kind of a hot mess, I mean, this is just phenomenal. And I want to give a great shout out to Sarah Boxa. There she is in the back corner. She's coming in on her free time and like weeding and raking and mulching and planting. And she's so thoughtful about using native pollinating plants and all these wonderful things. And I don't know about you, but every single time I drive around that carpool loop, I just feel like we are greeted by something that's really happy and lovely and welcoming for all of our kids and our teachers and our staff. And it just really represents the warmth and beauty that is inside the school. So I'm really proud of what the PTO did for our entry circle this year. And I'm excited to see it continue long into the future. Field Day is coming up. As you know, you will see a sign up going out, or actually it already went out, about volunteering. And we have new exciting Field Day t-shirts that I think all the kids are going to like. And thank you to Kelly for designing these and doing all the work along with Elizabeth to get them ordered, and they will soon be distributed. For the second grade, Field Day is a little bit different because they get their own day and they get their own special t-shirt and all their names are on the back. It's a little graduation moving up gift from the PTO. And this year we're also getting a very fun inflatable obstacle course. And this will just add to the specialness of this second grade only Field Day. And we will also be having treats for all the kids at the end, some really delicious no dye organic popsicles. So the kids will enjoy it. Our last huge event of the year organized by the PTO is the One School, One Book Family Night. This is a tradition to celebrate the book that the entire school read together, Wind Riders. It is going to be a really fun night. We have live music. We have all these different fun activities that the teachers will help run. We have an ice cream truck and the Kona ice truck coming. And we also have the bubble bus, which we thought was very appropriate for an under the sea theme. So we're really excited. It's only 90 minutes. We're not going to do the pizza truck this year, but feel free to bring a picnic or give your kids a snack of dinner beforehand, because they are definitely going to want ice cream and those slushy ices. Please bring cash for the treats, and you will get another email through your room parents with more information. But note the date, June 7th, and it's going to be the last time that we really gather as a school before summer. So we hope to see you all there. That's it from Hurlbut PTO. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. That made me tear up when you said that it was the last one.
I know.
I'm getting beepy lately. It's not okay.
I know. I mean, my kids come home every day with there's 16 days of school left. I mean, they're in countdown mode. So
they're ready to go.
Yeah.
So we, along with the other schools up the road, we had our staff appreciation week, which was led by Catherine Studwell. It was amazing. We had breakfast, snacks, candy bar, luncheon. Parents got to jump in and take over recess and help, which was a huge hit. And it was really just really wonderful, and the staff really appreciated it. We are onto our field days. 5th grade is tomorrow, and they have the super duper weenie truck bringing them lunch as well as ice cream. And theirs is a full day event. They are excited. T-shirts were delivered. They're ready to go. 3rd and 4th grade is next week. All of the emails went out for volunteers for that. So hopefully everyone got a chance to look at that. We had the BMX show last week, which was absolutely phenomenal. These are pictures of actually inside the gymnasium. It was too windy outside, so they brought it inside. And this picture on the left, he jumped over 4 teachers with his bike. And all the kids loved it. It was great. They were just a super great show. We want to bring them back, and their message was really awesome too. We have the moving up ceremony for 5th grade, which is June 14th, 9 a.m. to 10:30. We have some fun pendants that we're going to be giving to all of our 5th graders this year and years to come. The 4th grade traditionally provides breakfast for that. So there's more information coming that's been spreading for 4th grade for donations from the 4th graders and their families. Board of Ed.
Thanks. So last week's meeting was once again focused on the safety and security of the West End Public School campus. 100% of the public comment was around this topic, and most specifically about arming the security guards for both WIS and Hurlbut. So to that end, the board announced that there will be a new security plan that will be presented at the June BOE meeting. And the superintendent did send an outline, a very brief sort of summation of some things that are cooking along with the letter that she sent out this week, but I'll just touch on a few things. So the board is asking for a $350,000 appropriation from the town to, as they say, harden the perimeters with a special focus on Hurlbut and WIS. So the plan does need approval from Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance, which is why they couldn't present it prior to this. So for security reasons, they won't release all of the details, but obviously they'll try to keep the community informed as much as possible on the broad strokes of the plan. And some things that are in the works right now in regards to this plan, there's a safety and security supervisor position that they're currently recruiting. It will be the liaison to local law enforcement, coordinating all of the internal security staff, as well as to serve as a floater within buildings, should we ever be in need of an extra security guard. Most of you probably have seen the school climate survey that the PPS department has sent out. It is for all families, staff, students, and it really does serve to provide us with a voice of how people feel about not just school safety physically, but the social emotional piece that we all love to talk about. And next slide, please. And you have noticed, I'm sure, the signage on campus that went up last week or the week prior, restricting access during school hours. Again, the superintendent is really hopeful that people be mindful of this. This summer, the district will undergo threat assessment training with a clinical psychologist, Dr. Megan Elliott, for all of those people that are available and are willing to do so in staff and administration. And our very own Ellen Crafts, who obviously is multifaceted. She's actively involved in gun violence prevention organizations, and she's offered to work with local law enforcement to share information and to hopefully build some community-based programs that will raise awareness for a topic that everyone is always concerned about. And other things beyond security, Carolyn Vinton, our math CIL at WIS, is retiring at the end of the year. She's been with the district for like 30 years. So those are hard shoes to fill, but we are actively recruiting for a new CIL for the school year. We have a new HR director. Dr. Rasmussen is from the Fairfield School District, and he will begin next week. And Dr. Henckel shared that finally our standardized assessments for the year will be done by the first week in June. So at that point, the kids will be coasting their way through the rest of the year. And if you see Tara Rice, she's a beloved third grade WIS teacher. She was awarded the 2023 Elizabeth Stokes Founders Award from the Western Education Foundation. So if you see her, give her a high five for that. And some important dates. There's a curriculum meeting on June 13th at 3. Again, will be recorded and live streamed. It does discuss sort of a look back of some of the changes in the curriculum for the past year, and then a look forward. So if anybody's interested in that, that might be a good one to check out. And just a note, the next BOE meeting is actually on a Tuesday, June 20th at 6. And again, they will present that security plan. So if you can't be present, make sure you catch up with it on the live stream later. That's all.
Thank you, Stacy. Next up, Edith. We just need to call for approval of the April minutes.
I'm actually calling for the approval of both Hurlbut and WIS, as I took notes just for Shannon last time. It's very similar. And obviously we talked about the BMX presentation, which was amazing, and the circus which was amazing. And again, we had the large talk about public comment, about budget. And again, we had presentations from all the specialty. So may I call for approval for the Hurlbut minutes for April?
First, Stephanie.
Thank you, Steph. Okay, and second?
Jenny, I'll second.
Jenny, thank you. And may I call for approval for the WIS minutes?
First, Maria.
May I call for a second?
Second, Stacy.
Thank you, Stacy. Okay, and I just want to say it's been a pleasure being your secretary, and thank you for everyone for being so amazing and dedicated. That's all.
Thank you, Edith. Thank you very much. And Shannon, do we have any, we're done. We approved both of them. Do we have any?
I am here. I just will need to just post those minutes from when I get them from Edith. So thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you again to everyone as well.
Thank you. All right, Jenny for Hurlbut Philanthropy.
Yeah, we have 3 requests this month, the last ones of the year. The first one is for up to $1,500. It is for a food truck that the staff have on the last day of school. The kids will leave early that day, and it's a celebration that they've had for a couple of years now. And so Mrs. Cadis has asked us if we would be willing to fund it. So that's number 1. Does anyone have any questions about that one? If not, can I have somebody to be first?
Edith first.
Thank you, Edith. And a second?
I'll second.
Steph.
Thank you, Stephanie. That's number 1. Number 2, also from Mrs. Cadis. She would like up to $500. Now, this is going to fund some parent education pamphlets that will be handed out at back to school night, at teacher conferences in the fall. They're created by the Centre for Responsive Schools. So it's helping families to understand that the work that the school is doing is physical, social, emotional, and academic. So again, that's been approved by executive. We thought that seemed like a good use of our funds. Does anyone have any questions about that? If not, could I have a first, please?
First.
Thanks, Ellen. And a second? Kelly. Thank you, Kelly. And then number 3 is the big one that has a lot of work has gone into this already. The Teachers Lounge. Anyone who's seen the Teachers Lounge at Hurlbut, it's pretty sad and a little bit depressing. And so one of the things we've been trying to do for our wonderful teachers is to bring it up to date and make it a bit more of a welcoming and adult space to be in. So it's already been painted. It was painted over the April break. And then we are in the process of getting sort of purchase of new furniture approved, and it will look very pretty with much more talented people than me have been doing this, I should say. I'm not someone who would be able to do this, but so we have a list of furniture we're intending to buy. We'll get pillows. You know, it's been done in consultation with the teachers, so hopefully they'll all be really happy with it. Now that is going to cost up to $5,000. So that's another one we need to approve today. Does anybody have any questions about what we're doing?
I just want to clarify that for this, it's a one-time expenditure, as
Yes.
opposed to something that we, renew often. And also there was money set aside in philanthropy this year for various initiatives such as the circus, but our nominal ticket fee covered that amount. And then we set aside for new classroom rugs, but it looks like the district is going to cover that. So, this big number is actually, money that we no longer need to allocate to other expenses. And so we feel that we have a pretty big cushion to put it toward this one-time lounge renovation, which is desperately needed and I know will be much appreciated.
Yeah, that's right. We do have plenty of funds in philanthropy. We've actually done pretty well on some of the things we were planning to spend on. We haven't had to spend as much. So we've got plenty to spend it on this. And yeah, again, it's not going to be every year we're doing this, obviously. Hopefully this will last for a good few number of years before we have to look at doing the teacher's lounge again. So could I have a first?
First, Brittany.
Brittany, thank you, Brittany. And a second?
Enthusiastic second.
Thanks, Ellen. That is it for philanthropy from Harvard.
Thanks, Jenny. Treasurer, second,
yes.
Treasurer, Michelle
I'm
here.
here. Yep, Michelle,
Our
I'm here.
fearless treasurer is back, thank goodness, because
Yay.
she can now speak more than, we're good. We've spent some money and we're still okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michelle.
We are holding steady on our accounts. Our operating balance is at 24,000. Philanthropy is at 81,000. Notable income from the past month was the circus that we just talked about. And notable expenses came through from teacher appreciation, one school, one book, parent-teacher conference snacks for the teachers, and obviously the circus event, which is kind of just in money in, money out. Nothing really notable for philanthropy, just Amazon. There must have been some Amazon purchases with the philanthropy Amazon website that's going out of business, but we had $132 from that and then interest. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Thanks, Michelle. Chris is traveling and I will do our budget here. So I'll just go over notable income, sponsorship and community tables for Memorial Day Fair, 1,167, corporate matching from IBM and TD Bank, 500, Square Art, 246, notable expenses, conference reimbursement, that was for the principals fund. Then we had the inflatables for field day, 1,271, and then conference room stacks of 314, which I think is a little bit higher. And we also had donations for that as well, but we're looking good going into the big weekend. Elizabeth for Hurlbut.
Elizabeth had to hop off, so I'll just quickly report that she's been very focused on our field day, which I already reported about. We have June 5th and June 8th on the calendar. The kids are getting t-shirts. They're going to come home. The first graders get to tie-dye them. And you will soon be hearing about which volunteers are able to come. Just a heads up, you don't actually follow your kid around. You volunteer at a station and help the event be overall successful, but you certainly see your own child come through your own station. It's going to be a fun day. It is going to be sunny, but not too hot and not too sunny, and everyone's going to have a great time. So we will see you for our annual field day.
Thank you, Stephanie. Next up is, us. Livia had to jump off, but our field day 5th grade is tomorrow. Again, if you've signed up, you stay at your station, but you see your kid, hopefully. T-shirts have been delivered. The big push now is the 4th grade chairs collecting donations for the 5th grade graduate moving up ceremony. So emails have gone out about that. It's also in the whistle. And I mean, that's it. That's it. What a phenomenal year. I'm just going to quickly say thank you to everyone that has been on my board and in these meetings. I I don't get enough of this, shockingly. It's really fun and I enjoy it. And I love seeing all these faces on here. I am thrilled to announce that we will be in person next year. So all of our meetings will be in person, and Kelly and I are working on trying to do a couple of meetings at night so that parents who can't be in person during the day can maybe catch a meeting at night, as well as some really, really wonderful speakers for our parents, for education and to learn more about our kids. Stephanie.
Oh, sorry, my mute. I'm really glad that we'll be in person. I won't have to be doing Zoom anymore. But it has just been such an honor being, your PTO president this year. I've loved everything that we've done. I'm so proud of the effort of the executive board, the general board, and all of our parents. I think our goal of creating more community, particularly coming out of COVID, has been achieved and will continue in that vein. And we've had exciting events that I hope will be memories that our children will have forever. So I always believe that our PTO is only as strong as its volunteers. And all 18 of you that are still on this call are, the best of them. So thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for where you've donated. And thank you for just being enthusiastic, because I think that's what gives our kids the best and most memorable childhood school experiences that they can have. So thank you. It has really, really been my honor. So thank you. That's it.
All right. See everyone at the fair this weekend. Tell your friends to sign up for those spots that we're missing in the ticket booths. And yeah, we'll see everyone soon. Thank you.
Bye, all.